everybody. Hope y'all are surviving Corona. I had the case study for Chapter 10, and it discussed the importance of sustainable tourism as a development strategy for areas along the coastline. Because of the natural environmental concerns such as beach erosion, dam preservation, animal habitats, sustainable tourism should always be a high priority in coastal development strategies. The tourism situation in these areas is really unique, and it requires more detailed planning where sustainable tourism is concerned. So I'm going to start off talking about the problems and potential solutions that were presented in this case study. One problem area is for the cities to realize the importance of a well-planned sustainable tourism directive that includes like establishment of a strong sustainable tourism policy covering preservation of both the natural environment and the built environment. It was pointed out in the case study that if an area is not properly protected, the stakeholders will lose in the long run. This is where sustainable tourism comes in. These stakeholders are businessmen, local governments, nonprofits, academic agencies, etc. And also the local citizens. For long-term survival and protection of their economic livelihood, these stakeholders must understand the importance of the complete tourism experience as well. The complete tourism experience on the coast is highly dependent on a sustained and welcoming environment, but it's also dependent on the built environment as well. One solution could be to bring in a marketing expert to help the businesses in the area form a more memorable and hands-on experience for tourists and enhance their experiences. An example was when the Gulf Coast Orange Beach area Tourism Commission brought in a marketing expert and to help with their brick businesses enhance their marketing ideas for their customer experience. Another issue is rapid growth of tourism along the coastline. Tourism can often work against the communities in this area, but pre-planning based on calculated needs can keep a community from being overwhelmed or face detrimental issues in the long run. The case study discussed how the Outer Banks in North Carolina has been poorly managed, and the extensive overbuilding would have a lasting impact on the coast, on their specific coastline. The Outer Banks is basically out of room for any more major developments in its area. Once administration formed a plan to protect the island from further detriment, their work to sustain what they already had has earned them the designation as North Carolina's leader in recycling for the last 7 years. The Outer Banks also faces another issue which falls under deterioration of aging tourist destinations due to their lack of tourism planning. But an aging destination is a destination spot that didn't start out being a destination area and therefore has a lack of pre-planning for tourism. Another issue is the local culture and history are often ignored in pre-planning in areas along the coastline. It's really easy for them to do when most of their focus is on the beaches and the water activities, because that's where most of their tourism occurs. But tourists want to dine at the local restaurant, at the restaurants that locals dine at. They want to see historic sites. They want to make memories with their kids through hands-on experiences. So plans need to be in place that emphasize on sustainable tourism, benefiting the environment, education, local culture, economics, history, etc. Another issue is economical loss that can be created due to poor sustainable tourism planning and poor administration. So the detrimental issues created by an influx of tourism and poor management in a coastal community can cause a negative financial effect. Now I'm going to discuss how to avoid the problems. So if a community neglects planning where sustainable tourism is concerned, it will suffer. Communities need to understand this process and the effects of not planning, because it's crucial to embracing and enhancing tourism in their specific community. The tourism industry must be prepared for crises, just as our Gulf Coast has to prepare for hurricanes or evacuating thousands of tourists within short notice. Planning is crucial, but sometimes overlooked because the problem that is being addressed isn't of immediate concern. But proper planning and exploring the changing world we live in is necessary to avoid downfalls later. So now I'm going to discuss the context and constraints. So lack of planning for mature destinations qualifies as a historical constraint, I think. For instance, the Outer Banks area did not properly plan for its future in the tourism industry, which created issues for them. This lack of planning was most likely due to lack of organization by previous administrators or lack of knowledge and education by them. Financial gain due to tourism can also create a sense of success that can prevent these administrators from making the needed changes, because they don't want to hurt any revenue increases that are happening. Lack of financial security can also be a constraint when planning for the future, because lack of money can prevent these areas on the coastline from making much needed improvements. Like they didn't have back then what they have now in order to plan properly and ensure future sustainability. In order to educate the community stakeholders, they must fully understand roles, the roles that natural resources and long-term planning of tourism can play in a successful sustainable tourism plan. But as noted in the case study, good sustainable tourism planning and management promote effective and efficient use of resources and enrich the economy and can improve the way of life for a local community.